Snow White, like many of the Disney live action remakes, is just not for me. And that's for multiple reasons, right? I think these movies fail to expand and update on the premise for the most part. Besides like Mufasa, which is a prequel, I think they feel too close to the animated features, but don't have the same charm. And Snow White tries really hard to recapture the charm of the 1937 film. The biggest movie's flaw is not the controversial castings, even though I do think those castings were actually the strength of the film. And it's not the weird looking ass CGI dwarves, which was surprisingly charming. I didn't think that I was gonna like them at all, but I actually liked all of them. The biggest flaw of the movie is that it's too beholden to the old classic film that came out before Black people had civil rights, right? It should have done something where it took this movie and updated it in a way that it would bring it to a new generation and help audiences that grew up with the film appreciate it in another way. I feel like the movie has so many opportunities at hand to explore different themes in the film while still keeping the spirit of the movie together. There are many chances for them to tackle kind of relevant themes like an evil queen that's purposely making people of different walks of life hate each other instead of focusing on how she's evil. I think that could have been executed better, but now the movie kind of feels like an ancient story with some CGI paint. So with that said, I know that this movie was not made with me in mind. I think this movie was made for kids to enjoy in the theater, laugh, sing, and love these goofy looking characters, and then rewatch these films on Disney Plus. And also Disney adults, like people and adults who make these characters, these worlds their whole life, and they get to relive this story with a fresh new paint and coat. And with that in mind, I don't think the movie is this disaster that people have been predicting it to be, or the narratives that has been leading out into a lot of the reviews. It's a charming film. It has some really solid aspects to it that didn't make me bored. I kind of chuckled a bit and really got invested in some of the characters. Now let's start off with Rachel Zegler. I've been a fan of Rachel for a while now. Since I saw her in Shazam 2, I really liked her performance there. There's something very believable and likable about her on-screen presence. She does a really great job with action and physicality. I saw that in Hunger Games, and she does a great job here. And there's just something about her that I really like to see on screen, and she can sing her ass off, which she has to do here with this musical, and she does a great job with it. She nails being Snow White. All the emotional aspects of the film, all the natural wholesomeness and kindness and warmness that this character has to have for the original story and this kind of updated story that they're doing here, she embodies and nails every aspect that she has to. She's a shining star in this movie, really bringing a lot of flavor to all the songs. I really enjoyed them, and the songs themselves weren't that bad. Some of them were actually pretty catchy. And with that, she's the savior of the film. I feel like without her effort to bring all that emotional depth to a character that's not written too crazy, and her effortless chemistry with every single person in the cast, without her doing all that, this movie probably would have been a disaster. So with the way the character's written and so likable, and how Rachel Zegler does such a great job and such a shining light, it makes sense within the film why multiple characters of Walk of Life see her as this beacon of hope amongst this darkness and stuff that's happening, and kind of get behind her, and she garners support easily even though she's not really looking for it. And we all know the story of Snow White. She is the true princess, should be queen of her kingdom, and her father is casted away. The evil queen takes her to the spot and wants to be the fairest of them all, but Snow White is always in her way and gets casted away in the forest. And her arch nemesis, Snow White arch nemesis in this film, just like in the original, is the evil queen, and that is being played by Gal Gadot, who's been receiving considerable criticism for her acting lately.
No, therapy. Max Lord, you're putting yourself and everyone else in grave danger. I need you to give me the stone. What happened to it? Kal-El, no.
And maybe rightfully so. She hasn't had the best line reading in a lot of different movies, and outside of her Wonder Woman performances and sometimes the Fast and Furious, I don't know if she's really that talented or has that much range. But I gotta say, I really actually enjoyed her inside of this movie as the evil queen. I think this is the most fun I've seen Gal Gadot have on screen. She did a really good job of embodying this evil queen that wants to be the fairest of them all and rule everything. And there was like a background there in terms of some of the speeches she made that I really wish that the movie dug into, but they just kind of just made her this vain evil queen. And while Gal Gadot did a good job with it, I never felt like she was really, truly evil until they switched her to like the old hag evil queen, where I thought she did a great job transitioning her voice and body movements to seem like an older, more mysterious character. I wish they delved into her motivations, maybe her past and things like that. I don't know if the original did that. I haven't seen it in a long time, but that would have elevated the movie and her as a villain in the film if they would have wrote that in and made her motivations make more sense. But they kind of just did like a one note right and one note performance here with her character. And while I was kind of impressed with her performance here, despite everything everyone has been saying, they did her no justice with the costume that they put her in. They had her moving like Batman 89. And while I think she did a fine job and I really liked her as the evil queen, I do say that they could have probably gotten a more talented actress like a Anne Hathaway or even a Lady Gaga, who you know can really sing and is that type of diva, that could have made this movie even better and elevated even more by making more fantastical choices acting wise and brought some gravity to the role. The rest of the cast was pretty charming, especially the bandits that are helping Snow White while she's lost in the forest, and the dwarves, who, yes, that's been a big complaint from a lot of people, and they do seem off-kilter and weird when you first see them, but they're so charming and nice. You get used to the CGI after a while, and the fact that they did have other small people in the film, I kind of was glad that they didn't pick small people, because it differentiates that the fact that the dwarves are not human, they're these magical creatures, and then small people are just regular humans and they're in the fray, they're in the battle. So I like that differential that they did there. And I think that these characters were cool. I really like the chemistry with Rachel Zegler, but unfortunately, they're not used as well as they could be. Like the main characters, they're all one note. Unfortunately, this movie is so focused on getting from one story beat to the next story beat. Their focus is really the singing numbers, and they don't give time to flesh out anything with any of these characters. I'm not a huge musical fan, and that big reason why. I feel like the story is never really fleshed out that much, and a lot of it is in the singing. But after seeing things like Wonka, the Mean Girls film that came out last year, and even like Wicked, I enjoyed all three of those, and I enjoyed the songs here, but I feel like they could have done more with the plot. One thing I gotta say is a big criticism for this film, and I had it too when watching the trailers, was the VFX and CGI. Just did not look good in the trailers. I was not looking forward to watch this movie because of that. But I gotta say, the movie actually is really good on the big screen. I don't know what it was about the trailers, or maybe it was just the choices that they made, but when you see the scenes in full, it's a mix of practical effects and CGI, and the way they do it makes everything feel fantastical. This does feel like a fairy tale, so that on itself is pretty impressive. Nothing felt too super digital and out of place because they made it look fantastical on purpose. They went with the fairy tale feel instead of the photorealistic feel. Does that like capture the Disney magic that you would love to see? Not quite, but it does give it some bright colors to maintain your focus on the movie. And my biggest problem with the movie, like I said, is the fact that they didn't take any chances or risk with the story and update it even more and kind of explore certain things. But with that said, like, even if they decided not to do that and keep the story straightforward, I think the movie just moved too fast from one point to the next point. There's a lot of things that go along in this journey that I thought if they spent more time and made it felt more harrowing, then this movie could have been elevated, where I think it would have been one of the best movies of the year. There's things where Snow White is going through the woods and it gets this really cool magical feel, and she feels like she's going through this like troubling journey to get to the dwarves before she even gets there, that they kind of moved way too fast. So you don't feel the issues that she's going through and like how hard it is to get through this forest. Rachel Zegler's doing a great job of emoting, but I think they could have done more if they would have took the time to build the threat that she was facing. It kind of felt like they were trying to match the runtime of the animated film, but animation can do so much more and with shorter amount of time because it's animation than live action. There's certain things you have to do and you have to slow down to really get the people invested. But I do see, like I said, kids really loving this movie because the kids in my audience were having a ball. But for people like me who likes a little bit more meat and potatoes on their plate and in their dish, I felt like this movie had ample space to invest some themes and just make the story a little bit more harrowing than it came off while still pleasing the Disney adults and the 10-year-olds that are gonna love this movie. I gotta say, but I was never really bored in the film. I was really invested in Snow White's journey. I think Rachel Zegler did a great job, like I said, getting me invested in that character with her performance, and I really wanted to see Gal Gadot's evil queen get her comeuppance. And the musical numbers were charming as well, and the only problem I really had is that I never got emotionally invested so much that I felt like I was on the brink of tears, which I think Disney, Pixar, and that kind of, studio usually can bring out of me. So this movie is nowhere near an atrocious time at the theaters like a lot of people are saying. It's also not a great time at the theaters. I think it's an okay film. I didn't leave it wanted to clap, but I also didn't go, ugh, this is sucky. I wouldn't be mad if somebody wanted to watch this movie again with me. So with that said, I'm gonna give Snow White a C. Question of the day is, what is your favorite Disney remake? Drop your comments down below and let me know. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and you can watch more content right now.